Yes.
Yeah, we are live.
Yeah.
Definitely live for sure with sound now.
Yes.
Now in technical, now in sound and full color.
I think that you do need, based on the audio problems that are, a little bit frequent.
Yeah, a little bit. It's because I just
Having it
get
now
so
with
excited. I get so excited about starting. What's that? Can't hear y'all. Funny. Haha, taco. No, because yesterday we were filming the series finale of one of our little mini-series things, and twice during the thing they asked me, is the sound on? Are you sure you're hitting record? I'm like, yes. Thank you though, because I need it.
Can you imagine getting like 3 hours into that and being like, oh.
He can't imagine that because
I've done it. I think it was first episode didn't record. So that was fun. The third, I think, session in, we started recording after the break because we missed the whole first half.
Oh, no.
So, it's all good. Giving Aaron a complex is the best. Thanks. Yeah. It is. That's so
That's
great.
me.
Oh,
That's me.
is it?
I'm just upping the engagement in chat. You know,
No, that's perfect.
important.
It's perfect. It's very important.
Yes.
That's what everybody else does. They give me the complexes. It's fine. So anyway, welcome to Lord Dumplings, where our special sessions of Lord Dumplings, Dads and Dumplings. Where we have our lovely friends from Dads and Dice who have graced us with their presence as we talk about all things D&D and beyond. I said that earlier as I was like, I didn't think it was put it in the tweet or something like that. I was like D&D and beyond, and I was like, oh no, I heard Buzz Lightyear's voice in my head when I did it.
I'm just hearing you simping for a D&D Beyond sponsorship.
Oh, you know, it's
all
fine.
I'm hearing.
D&D Beyond Dice did not treat me really well yesterday, so you know, it's fine. It was for the players' benefit, so I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, I guess as
fine.
DMs we want our players to have fun. Whatever.
Right, allegedly. You
Yeah.
know, all of our money.
Ryan's like, all right, guys, I'm pulling out the good dice. Who's ready to die?
Yeah, I actually do have good dice and bad dice, and they know if they start cutting up, the good dice is coming out.
I mean, so one thing is like my digital not my digital dice, my real dice don't always fail me. My digital ones, however, on the other hand, there was one time when I rolled 2 attacks back to back at advantage and got the same number, but the numbers were flipped.
Ah, yes.
So it was like a 2 and a 5, and then the second time was a 5 and a 2. And I was like, are you serious? Seriously. Seriously right now. It's fine. This is fine. It's all fine.
It's fine.
I mean, as long as you're playing people that we, the players, have to succeed against, then please continue to roll out.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as it's those kind. As long as the ones you're against and not the ones that you're rooting for.
There was one fight in particular that I was rolling really well as a DM.
Was it Wyvern Tor?
No, it wasn't Wyvern Tor. It was Cragmaw Castle. And you guys were like, out of the whole party, there was only one person left standing with one
hit point.
Oh no.
We almost TPK'd that night. Ooh, that was bad.
Yeah.
So who were you fighting, out of curiosity? Because that was the episode before you started streaming, right? Because you had just left Cragmar Castle whenever you started.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched the first. I've gotten so far. I'm into episode 3. I want to say. So
yeah.
Getting
well,
there.
Thank you for checking those out.
No, they're good.
Yeah, every time there's a blip in our YouTube analytics of an early episode, I'm like, oh, thanks, Aaron.
I mean,
it's happening.
It's happening. Someone's it's really good. It was, this is one of the things that we had talked about before is like the random similarities in story beats that we have had. And I was telling this to some of our OG crew from before we were streaming is that after their fight at Cragmar Castle, which we did do that whole thing, I also had them set upon by assassins. So the fact that you'd had it, I was like, wait, they just left Cragmar Castle and they're being attacked after they leave? Yeah. That's amazing.
And that's not in the module.
It's not in the module.
That's crazy.
No, I know. And I think the one difference, and interestingly enough, they were also drow.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, were they with the Netherese?
No, but they were also drow. And I was like, because I had one of our players, David, who played a half-orc named Pigug. His younger brother and younger sister were visiting, and they were gonna come and they were gonna watch one that night. And he had told me ahead of time they were gonna come and watch. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, actually, I'm gonna like talk to them if you don't mind, see if they can do like a little guest thing if they want. And they're like, yeah. So then I talked to them. I was like, all right. So when I told your brother I was gonna have you come in as guests, he's expecting friendly people. Not expecting you guys to be the ones piloting the NPCs that are going to be fighting them. So it turned out really fun.
That's awesome.
And his sister later wound up joining our campaign as a character for a few months. And it was a really amazing time. But they'll never let me live it down because It was the whole thing was kind of inspired just to give them. They were feeling high and mighty because they had just blown through Cragmar Castle so well, and I was like, all right, let me throw them a little hiccup of more powerful things. I'm like, you're not invincible, and so I gave them all like NPCs that were really well built. And then most of the party woke up to already being kind of like subdued. Like there was a silence spell that had been put on the camp so they couldn't hear anything. And it was only by a really high roll that allowed one of them to kind of like feel that they were being like bound because they couldn't hear anything and they were asleep, and you're just, just sleeping, just tying their hands and stuff. And one of them woke up really well because he was an elf, and you know how they never really sleep. So
yes,
they're just kind of meditating.
Hey, can I pick your brain and Harriet's brain real quick?
Yeah.
So when you're a DM and you're running combat, what are some of your philosophies whenever you are like running combat? Like what are some of the things you try to stick to? What are the beats you try and hit? And that's to both of you.
Yeah. Ooh. I think, well, so far, because I'm like hella new at this still,
Sure.
But for the most part, I want it to be, I never go in with the intention of like, this is gonna be really bad, even though I kind of want it to be, because so far it has not been the case. Hold on, let me let Justin in here real quick.
Yeah, I guess we'll let him in.
I guess. I need to this. We're gonna go Picasso for a second.
Yep.
Whoa! There we go.
Oh no, modern art.
It wasn't half bad this time. We did pretty good. Yay! Welcome,
What's up, Justin?
Hey.
Good to see you.
Can you
Justin.
hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. I was just asking Harriet and Aaron about some of their philosophies as DM whenever they're running combat. Like, if I could give you an example of kind of what I'm talking about. So, one of the things that I always like to try and throw in is the illusion of extreme danger, which keeps the stakes high, keeps the characters engaged through really long periods of combat.
Yep.
But also, I love throwing unique mechanics into any fight. So, like, for instance, whenever they fought King Grohl in Cragmaw Castle,
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't want it to be a tank and spank where they just dealt with his damage while dealing out their own.
Right.
I made it to where his HP and hit die and like damage die were doubled while this enchanted totem was still standing in the middle of the courtyard.
Yeah.
There in Cragmaw.
Yeah.
And that just adds layers to combat as opposed to, okay, this is just going to be a numbers game. You get yours out. I'll describe what happens. That's sort of what I'm talking about. So is there anything y'all try to do to spice up combat?
Do you have any examples?
I mean, for me, I like having, because I was going to say one, the quantity of enemies can always be scaled. If it turns out that the players are handling the situation a lot better than you expected, oh no, here's more. We're always there as far as the players know. But
it was 12 goblins
you've
in a trench
created
coat
to add additional. So there's that. And then interesting set pieces basically to make combat cool and unique. So like give them a really rickety bridge to fight on, or like definitely using the environment to make combat interesting. I think is a great way to do it, because like there's all kinds of, the whole world is your playground, right? So why not let your characters have interactions in situations that will allow them to test their skills in weird places? So like in this current campaign, there was an opportunity for Iskra to get in like a solo fight against a couple other monks inside of a really close quarter shop with like a bunch of stuff all over.
Oh,
it could have
my
like been like a
gosh.
Jackie Chan type of situation.
Yes.
I was able to like de-escalate it without fighting. But
I was like, wait,
player
which type?
me
Oh, yeah.
really wanted to fight.
Oh my gosh, like the
So-
John Wick scene whenever he's like fighting through like the antique gun shop and stuff like that, and like
Using whatever's in the environment. Oh man, that would have been in. And it was one of those like it was not that I necessarily was doing it to bait Iskra into this, but I kind of was trying to see. I was like trying to push to see if they were gonna do it because they had just gotten to this town and they were trying to stay on low key. But I knew it was also a situation where it was gonna test her because they were there to pick up someone that clearly had some magical talent. And so they were like, oh, you're gonna come with us kind of thing. And so she was just a shopkeep in the time. And at first I wasn't even expecting her to go in there. It was gonna be one of those like she sees it through the window kind of thing to see if she would react. But then it turned out by whatever weird fates are aligned in the D&D universe, she literally, before I even said anything, was like, can I look for a shop that sells
smells really
small
nice.
yeah, it's gonna say small and sell at the same time, that sells small metal objects like cutesy things like clocks and clockwork, whatever. And I was like, look down at my notes and I'm like literally looking at the thing that says there will be this shop with small clockware like gizmos in the window, and I'm like looking around like, where is your camera? How did you know?
Yeah, she's checking her camera. Okay, yes, we're gonna follow the story.
Yes. And I was like, yeah,
there is.
There's totally is. Amazing. So she went in there and it was like, how is she gonna handle this? And there was plenty of metallic objects for her to kind of throw around, and it would have been very interesting. But oh man, she controlled herself and like de-escalated that thing so well. Good. And I was kind of upset but so proud at the same time because I was like,
another lesson Freya needs to have from Iskra.
No, I mean, that's one of the, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing that I've thrown at some monks, at both Iskra and Sonder sometimes, is things that will test their patience or their anger, because you normally think of monks as like kind of trying to be level-headed or controlling their emotions, but there's, I think, a little bit of barbarian rage in everybody, so it's got that like potential if you just hit the right nerve that it's going to springboard from there, like mistreating your favorite bugbear. Just saying.
Yes.
I was thinking about pre-stream and Phandalin, that part where I failed your test, but that is probably the most character defining moment for Freya for me. Yeah. So I had befriended the village idiot. We have spent like a week and a half in our so we have a group me with Ryan and then we have the group me without Ryan.
Yes.
We have spent the whole week planning, this is how we're going to liberate Phandalin. Like, we know exactly what we're going to do beat by beat. We're on our way to enact that plan, and then we see the village idiot in the stocks threatening to be killed, and I was like, nope, Freya would dive in. And that was the moment where I went, okay, now I know exactly who Freya is, though.
Right on.
Isn't that always so exciting as a DM whenever you watch your players just figure out who their characters are? Like,
and it also sometimes like it's things that you're like, yeah, this is what I was thinking this character would do, and then sometimes it's things that completely surprise you, and you're just like, yes,
oh yeah,
I'm 100% here for this character development, because I'm just saying, like, when I don't have to say anything for more than 5 to 10 minutes because they are doing things on their own, I'm just like, so proud. So proud.
But to go back to the DM combat stuff, we give Ryan a lot of grief that, like, we joke that he enjoys bringing us to near death and then pulling back just slightly. But one, it makes combat always feel earned when we do.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
we do see it at the end. Yep. Like, it's never like, oh, well, that was, whatever. It's just another combat. And two, it has made us be more creative as players because we begin to see, like, how that gets rewarded in, like, story and stuff. I think Dustin came in as one of the most creative players as far as, like, using the environment in combat. There was one point in Cragmaw Castle where he lured someone away, hopped over a trap, got on the other side of the door and like smashed the guy with the door, knocking him into a trap.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And so I think
like,
that we just like began to challenge each other to get more creative with the environment in combat.
And also like I really hate whenever DMs take on like an antagonistic me versus you mentality. My philosophy for combat is it needs to match the world in its tonality.
Yeah.
And my world being extremely hostile, it's fought tooth and nail for 50 years on the brink of chaos. So they're going to be able to handle themselves in a fight, and fighting is going to be in everyone's vocabulary. So the world's going to fight back, and it's going to fight back hard.
Yeah.
And so that
be prepared for that.
Combat in and of itself can be utilized as a story beat if you just understand your world well and weave that into combat.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know if they've noticed, but I like usually doing more of the role play and those kind of conflicts without fighting, that the intensity kind of builds up around that. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're like, when are we gonna fight something? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that's a thing. Hold on.
We haven't fought anything. I haven't been a part of a fight since the Coyote.
Because you didn't get to participate in the circus.
Yep.
Yeah,
he listed his patron.
It has been weeks, like real life weeks, since I have fought in D&D.
Don't worry. From what I understand, you have your time coming soon, though.
It's coming.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's coming.
No, it's okay. I'm planning on like an hour-long conversation with Ninny.
Wonderful.
We'll get there when we get there.
Wonderful.
Another shocking episode.
Total side note: have you guys seen Tailspire on Steam?
Yes, I have it.
I bought it as well, and Coulter, I bought it like 5 days ago tops.
Yeah.
Barely. And Justin looked at my playtime on it the other day. He saw it on Steam.
Was it like 25 hours?
It was 25 hours, and I promise you it's up to 30 at this point.
Right on.
Let's find out. Let's find out.
Yeah. I built so much.
27
hours.
I jumped in before they went to early access, just when they were still on the guest and Kickstarter or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I have played a lot of it, or was trying to learn how to build a lot of it, because I was like, well, if we go to online, I can just use this for my maps. And then I was like, oh man, there is so much you can do with this. And then they were like, we kept adding more. And then I just kind of I also just wanted to use, I had so many minis that I had bought, so many, and I was like, okay, I can't just not use these. So I was like, well, for now, Tailspire is gonna have to wait, because I do enjoy building games, like the sandboxy buildy kind of stuff. And so I was like, this is perfect, because it's just building to your heart's content. And so I was like, all right, you're gonna add this one, I'll wait. When this next expansion comes out, or their next update comes out, I'll play it again. And then they're like, oh, we're announcing we're gonna make this one next. I'm like, all right, when this one comes out, I'm gonna pick it up again. And now they're like, hey, it's in public early access now. And I was like, oh man, I need to go back and look. And when I looked last, they have so much stuff in there.
Yep. We'll be using it. We're exploring using it in this next session, for the big fighting. For the big fighting pit. Me and Dustin are trying to figure out the logistics
of like doing that,
of broadcasting it well.
Yeah, because it would I could definitely see where it would want it to be on one of the player sides, because as the DM side, you have a lot of the, as you say, behind the curtain aspects of it that you can kind of control and move and stuff. So you wouldn't want to be able to do that. So it'd have to be someone who is like experiencing it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has to be Dustin, since he's like hosting the stream too. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yep.
Fair enough. You got this, Dustin. We believe in you.
Okay, so I want to ask y'all, and I give you a little bit of heads up.
Yeah.
I want to ask, since I finally got to see in this latest episode of Knights of Solar Moon, Spooky Iskra, as you called it, Harry.
Nega Iskra. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to, and I thought that was just the coolest way to incorporate the patron. So like, how did that develop? And then how do you like prep for a session where that's going to happen together? If you can share your secrets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think we could talk about that a little bit at least,
Yeah.
Without like spoiling too much.
So it was kind of an accident, sort of, because Alcuin had to step away from the game for a couple weeks because of work. And so I was like, all right, I had to figure out a way to just, because we had, I think for 2 sessions, we kind of just played him as like the silent background character because there wasn't a lot going on. And then I was like, all right, let's do something a little more creative with this because it's going to be an extended period of time. And I didn't want the players to feel like they had to Jaeger him all the time. And I was like, all right, let's kind of take him out of the picture, but not like completely. And so the best way to do that is, put him in a coma. So,
well, thankfully, he already had received a mysterious and powerful artifact from somebody connected to his patron a few sessions back. While we were in the previous town that we'd been spent a lot of time in, like for like a major little arc. So there were all the tools were already there to like make this like thing precipitate.
Yep.
So that was cool.
So he went. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we'd also had previous moments where that thing had caused him to have some really bizarre dreams. Where I think it was Galil and I had already played like alternate versions of ourselves in Alcuin's like dream world.
Oh yeah.
So there was some
I forgot about
precedent.
that. Because it was like an alternate reality where they basically joined the bad guys, and it was like they were in like an academy kind of situation where they were all in red with like Thayan uniforms and everything, and they're like, this is reality. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, wait, why are you dressed like that? Like, we're in uniform, like we always are. That was so good because he had no idea.
That's so cool.
Right. So there was all that stuff. And then, there needed a reason for Alcuin's player Elliot to be out for a while. So he falls into this like desperate madness patron induced coma. And so when he was given this artifact too, he was told by the person who gave it to him and by the patron in a one-on-one, don't tell anyone about this. And he proceeded to open it and like read it and tell the whole group about it. So it would make sense that there's a little bit of retaliation for disobeying the patron's wishes.
Coulter knows all about that, don't you, Justin?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Let's say, Justin, are you ready to enter a coma next week?
Yeah.
You might finally get some good sleep if you're in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
For a warlock?
You guys, were y'all in the ending of last session? Were y'all hanging out where Justin literally tells his patron, I just want to sleep. Like, just let me sleep. It was so great.
I did. I saw that.
Talking to him upside down for a while. Yeah.
I've got plans. Like, I'm just, after that session and after that encounter, I've got some things in mind for the future in terms of how I can kind of flesh out that relationship even better.
Things like murdering our bugbear?
I mean, I think there will be a healthy amount of people who will be upset. I'm just saying.
This is the first time that I've ever, I didn't go out planning to pit the party against each other, so to speak.
Inter-party conflict.
but it's so interesting to see how they navigate those tensions.
Yeah.
It's literally an experiment, and I hope it doesn't blow up in my face.
I think for the first time ever, Linux and Freya are kind of like, okay, we don't like each other per se, but we have an understanding now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that Lennox dislikes Freya. He doesn't dislike anyone.
We just don't like trust each other.
Yeah, he has his apprehensions about pretty much anyone.
I think it's an elf thing.
Well, he's half elf.
Half
he's
elf.
not full elf.
Okay,
yeah.
That's right. That's fair. I forgot.
So he's half trustworthy.
It's half trustworthy.
Right. I mean, honestly, like a lot of his backstory kind of plays into his hesitancy to find himself opening up to just people in general. So trying to stick to that
level in Rogue, man. You got to be edgy.
I like that.
Well,
but yeah, so once Alcuin was in a coma, we had Harriet help him, or Iskra help pull him out of like really recessing into deepness. But that like brief little connection kind of left a little bit of her self in his mind, in his consciousness, and so
there's like an echo.
Yeah, so there's
stuck around. So
that kind of grew with his patron being all about madness into this like what if reality of what if Iskra was not Iskra that he knew, and so it's just kind of been there, and it was supposed to initially had just been planned to be this one time. I was like, hey, would you mind doing like this like really negative version of Iskra, which is very cold and indifferent and almost cynical, because those are things that Iskra's not. I would say she's cynical. She's very but she's not naive at either.
Yeah.
She's very realist. So it's not like it's completely opposite of her, but it's just like a darker version. And so we just kind of went with that. And then it turned out to be a really fun thing. And she wrote all of these amazing lines and like personality for it. The first time she did it, she changed like the backdrop. It was like darker and scarier. Didn't you have like a candle or something that was on the table to like give you a front-facing lighting?
You guys both have that good. Alcuin's got like the background that he can change, and then you've got your lighting that you can do. And I was like, okay, well, if this is going to be like deep and different, and it's the first time that Elliot's coming back to us after being gone for so long, like I want to make this really special. And so when Aaron asked if I could do it, since I've been playing D&D for a long time, and I can I definitely won't metagame. I think we're all pretty good about that, our crew. And I've been a DM before and like those sorts of things. I really love getting this ability to be a part of this other player's story in this way. So I wanted to make sure that it was like a really special experience. So I changed like my background and everything too, so that like my lights were way dim. And like I had this because his patron is kind of like oceanic themed. So I even took my background screen on my desktop and I switched it to like this spooky underwater thing, and I switched my normal big glass mug that I have for a wine glass. The wine glass was shaped in a way that if you paid attention to the reflection, there was like the deep ocean behind it. And I've got like these chairs that have all sorts of neat kind of almost coral like patterns through that are like there's negative space where light can get through. And so I set that up in front of a lamp like kind of over there so that it was like casting weird shadows on the wall and everything too. But it was easy because our characters know each other, and I was supposed to be like a reflection of like a little bit of what was left over from Iskra's interaction with him there. But at that point, it was like Iskra was focused on protecting him. So that was like basically the only thing of Iskra that had made it through. And the rest was going to be his own grappling with where the heck he was, and his patron's influence. So when he would ask questions, I would just turn them around on him the way that like a professional therapist would, but like uncomfortably. So
I remember going just like, wow, she's gotten it. She's gotten good. She's good at this. I'm like, here, I'll just hand you my notes. You can continue, please.
So now when we do the little moments, basically, Aaron will just give me like a heads up, like a little bit before the session, or maybe a day before,
or even like a couple moments,
right in the moment.
Like, hey, you want to mess with them
and just
a
be
little bit?
like, hey, in the Discord, and like a direct message to me, like you want to like jump in and add a little of this. I'm like, okay, you bet. Those like sudden ones, it takes a little bit. Like if I'm really gonna access that character. But it's not too tough because again, it's just an offshoot of Iskra. So I don't know you guys as DMs. I haven't been DMing for a while. It's difficult to jump from person to person so much for me because I like can really invest myself in a character. So
a little bit of schizophrenia.
How do you guys handle that? Yeah, like
we're all a little mad here.
So I've always, and we touched on this last time we chatted, but as far as DMing goes for me, I play in my mind, I play one character, and that's my world. So switching characters isn't too bad because I already know off the top of my head, okay, this is a sailor. I know that there's a new continent that's shown off of the Sword Coast. They'd probably sail back and forth from that. His personality's, going to be a little rough and tumble, and I just come up with that. And jumping back and forth, I don't see it as that because I'm just playing the world.
That's a really excellent way to frame it. I think that would probably help me too.
How about you, Aaron?
Definitely.
And Kristen, she's a DM as well. At times.
Oh, I realized running Ravenloft, I do not care for DMing that much. The only one I've had a really fun time DMing was Greg and I wrote a one shot for Halloween 2019, and it was very much inspired by like Cabin in the Woods, Friday the 13th, and we rented a cabin in the woods, and a bunch of our friends went there, and to the point where because I just like made the map like a generic like horror movie cabin. It's what you do. And we got there and it lined up pretty well. And they were like what's happening? What?
I like that. Wait. Is this real? Is this real life? So we thought there was a point in time in the before times when we were like thinking that when we were like, hey, you know what we should do is do one of those escape rooms, but as our characters. And to this day it's on our like eventually to-do list is like, could we do that, like play a D&D session where it's like basically LARPing but or also just in an escape room just trying to do something like that would be pretty amazing, I think.
Now I'll say this, just adding to my point before you chat about the hopping from person to person point. The voices, total crapshoot. I know, like I think, I think this was the voice of that guy the last time they talked.
Oh no, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think Sildar Hallwinter's voice has changed no less than half a dozen times.
Yeah. Remember, Linux made and this was Linux making a comment in game for me as a player thinking, okay, Ryan's trying to pull the wool over our eyes on this. Because the first time we like met Sildar, he had like a Scottish accent. The next time we met him, he wasn't speaking Scottish. So Linux was like, "I'm rolling for insight. Like he seems different." And it was really just Ryan like
it's a body double.
Well, I mean, you had a good reason, because you've had run-ins with doppelgangers already by that point, right? So you that's not too far off, too wild of a theory.
Yeah, like, but yeah, dude, like. Characters like building motivations and stuff is easy for whenever you really know your world, but voices, forget about it.
I've especially if it's I mean, not to disappoint that I 100% know every single citizen of every country and city that I've ever taken these people to, but surprise, I don't. So if there's someone that I wasn't like 100% prepared for them to go talk to, especially I find if it's like a random person, not so much like a shopkeep, because those you generally try and have some notes about. But if it's like someone in the street that they talk to, and then for whatever reason they go looking for this person again, because I have players that like to torture me like that, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go talk to this person. They said that they used to be here all the time," and I'm like, "They did, yeah, they did, 100%." So then it's like I'll have like I'm trying to get better about if it's someone that I've had to kind of generate on the fly, make sure I write everything down as it's happening, because it's not. I mean, we're streaming it. Like, you can't see my desk, and so I'm just writing down a name, where this person is. That way I won't forget it next time, because they will take notes. And if I didn't have the opportunity to write everything that I said or wanted to do down, and then that goes double for voices too, because there have been times when I'm like, I had to go back to my notes because they're like, all right, they're wanting to talk to this person. I'm like, what did they even sound like? Because it's been a minute, and I've had 50 other voices in my head since then. So that schizophrenia thing, definitely feeling that. Definitely got that going. So I try
on voices, you shared a really cool voice library with me once, of accents, to like help.
Oh, I've heard of that
prepare.
website. Yeah.
Was it Idea? Let me consult the spirits.
So while you look, fun fact, at the very beginning, very first session, Freya was going to have an Australian accent, because I've been watching a lot of The Expanse, and the character of like Bobby.
Yeah.
Got 2 words out, and I was like, nope, that's not happening.
I'm pretty sure I tried to do like some sort of accent for Linux too. Not really an accent, but like a certain tone and dialect. And then very quickly I was just like, nah. And then Justin comes in and is like,
to it.
we're all just like, come on, man, make it look bad.
I'm going to pick on Brandon for a second. When we did get to see Kelkus again in Casino Heaven, I remember texting Greg. I was like, wait, when did Kelkus have an accent?
Right? That's one thing that I really respect Matt Mercer for. Like, I think he snorted way too much cocaine whenever he made the Campaign 2 world.
Oh my god.
So much, but his ability, I don't mean, he's a voice actor, but his ability to stay consistent with voicings is I mean unparalleled.
And like voicing and then mannerisms, because you can do a voice, but doing like small mannerisms completely can make the personification of somebody else.
You can see a screenshot of him and almost know which NPC it is.
Like case in point, Kiri the Kenku. Like,
oh my gosh, yes.
Kiri was, and that was interesting because it involves mimicking your whoever like is hearing it. I thought about introducing a Kenku like as an NPC before, and I'm like, I don't think I could do that, because either
you can
they're
only
gonna
use
talk,
words that they've heard,
which means that every other sentence or every other word is going to sound like somebody else. But you still have to make them make the players realize that it's still the same person. So a lot of what you're doing is being the same thing, and I think that's why, like, if I remember correctly, with Kiri, he kind of did his shoulders up a little bit, like the bird wings, and he kind of held his I did that like this little thing, so it had the character was there, but even though his voices were different, and I was like, props to people who play Kenku on the regular, because that kind of sounds like fun too, because then you don't have to have the same voice.
Sounds like torture to me.
But yeah. The website I was talking about, I put it in the chat just now, Dialects Archive. I think if you Google Idea voice acting, so they have like 2 pre-written dialogues, and you can go to any point in the world basically, and they have a dozen or more different people reading that same dialogue and then giving a little bit about themselves, so you can hear voice clips. So if you're really good at mimicking something you've heard, because I can't like read a how-to on doing an accent, because it's gonna get lost. Like the technical versions of English are gonna get lost on me. Like, oh, every
Like,
third
remember,
vowel.
this is especially plosive.
Yeah,
Like
and
that
you're
sort of thing.
I'm like, oh yes, it's definitely explosive. Okay, got it. But if I hear it enough, I can mimic it, which can be and has been a problem in real life. Whenever working in the public and you're hearing someone with an accent and you're trying not to accidentally start talking like them. Like I've had it happen before a couple of times when I was used to work at Starbucks, and then a couple of times at GameStop, and I would have a conversation with someone who had a different accent, and then you start picking up on a couple of like the things, and you're like, oh wait, no, I wasn't doing that on purpose. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to.
So, Kristen,
Yes.
you need to start paying attention. Travis Cooper does that.
Really?
Yes. It's
I'll
gotten
start
him
listening.
in trouble before because he'll not just mimicking, but he'll repeat what someone said in the way they said it, and he doesn't realize he's doing it. And it's made for some awkward meetings before.
Oh my gosh, he's a real life Kenku.
Yeah,
He
no,
just
really.
repeats what they said. I
Yep.
have noticed that. I think that is almost like a strange human thing. I think whenever like
You're trying to like build connections with someone.
Absolutely.
yes, you'll say like however they greet you or however you greet someone is generally how they repeat the greeting back to you. So if you're saying hello, they'll say hello. If you say hi, they might say hi. You know, like something like that. And some people pick up on that, and like some people have their very set standard. You know,
It's like you Mark Zuckerberg, like I am being human.
look at me humaning. This is great.
We're smoking some meats, grilling meats. Have y'all seen that video?
I don't think so. It sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard
It's
it
a video.
before.
He like went on a live stream. This is like a couple years ago. He's in his backyard. They're like grilling, you know, all kinds of different meats. But it's like a 40-minute video. And the whole time you're like, this is a non-human trying to be human.
The aliens have landed and they are among us.
Yes.
Your disguised person is looking great, but the voice that's behind the person is not so much.
Like everything that we're smoking and grilling meats is like no one says the things you're saying. This is weird.
Here are the lumps of carbon that we use for these meats.
Here's our sustenance.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
So I want to give a quick shout out to one of my friends for something that doesn't get to be seen on screen, but it's become my like in-character fidget item. My friend Scott 3D printed me a Timora coin. So like when Freya got it, I have it now and I get to flip it like, and it's definitely, and like, cause you never see it on camera, but I'm 100% always fidgeting with it while we play.
That is awesome. I do like that. That's a great idea. I fidget with anything and everything that is on my desk almost. At the
That
moment,
actually makes me want to know if there are among us or out there in the chat players or DMs who have like any like physical items that help them connect to their world or their characters, because that's really, really cool.
I have. Oh man, I don't have it on me right now.
You have a sword that bamps out or gauntlets
No, I
that you
don't.
can't remove?
Well, right now, so I never fidget in real life, like in normal day to day. But when I'm playing D&D or like doing this right now, talking about D&D, I do fidget. But it's just random stuff. Like right now, it is my child's fort. It just happens to be on my desk.
yes.
But
Yes.
no, I actually have a. I don't have it right now. My son actually has it in bed with him because he likes to play with dice. But we did a Christmas Secret Santa gift exchange with the D&D our group, and Dustin actually, who plays Fior, he actually made me this amazing like handmade little dice box that's got magnets so you can like snap it together, and he actually carved Linux's name into it, but like the L like starts off as an L and then curves into like a scimitar. Like
Oh,
looking
that's
like
so
actual,
cool.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever. But my child stole it from me. He's been playing with it, so otherwise
That was one of the best Secret Santas we've ever had.
Oh.
And look, I don't know about you, Aaron, but I don't have time to fidget with anything when I'm DMing. Like, not a thing.
It depends on what's happening. Because if it's like if I'm getting nervous about something that's happening, I might grab something, whatever, like a pen or something. Or as I popped was it on the Game of Santos or something else? I popped a pen cap into my face the other day.
I forget if
great.
that was with us or during barrels.
I don't remember, but I remember because I was playing with one of the pens and I was just kind of like fidgeting with it down here, and all of a sudden it just goes and hits my face, and I was like, nobody saw that. It's fine.
It's
They're
not
gonna
on
go
the
clip it
internet
on Twitch
forever.
and watch it over and over.
Yeah.
Someone said, "Hey, clip that," and I was like, "You won't be able to see it because it just hit my beard and the mic, and then it like disappeared." So just a little black fleck that just scared the Jesus out of me.
Hey, kind of an off-topic question here, Aaron.
Yeah.
Did I heard you mention the Thayans being a part of your campaign?
They are a very big
Yeah,
part of it.
big.
They're a central, perhaps the central part of our campaign right now.
I would ask that we avoid any names
Yeah.
of any of the major players
Yeah. Because
for
that was one-
for the sake of these two.
right.
But how have you implemented them?
So, right, I think the only two that are in quote unquote like Forgotten Realms lore that I have used have been the one that I think you guys have already dealt with in Phandalin, because that's like a little starter thing, right? And then the main big bad that is kind of pretty prevalent in a lot of stuff. Those are the only two names that I have really used that have made it into like everybody else I've kind of just made up name wise. Because I realized as I did more research into it, it was part of a lot of the older D&D editions. So a lot of the information was not so much that it was outdated, but it dealt with a time period that would have been like in the past at this point. So I was like, all right, so I don't have to worry about much of this right now.
Yeah.
And they're kind of far away. They were kind of at the time far away, but they kind of tied in with our a prophecy that we had as kind of like the main backbone of this story, which I realized after starting D&D, because I had started writing this campaign looking at it like as a writer would a book, and then I realized that it's a little harder to do that because you don't know how the story arcs are going to go per se. Like you can put in a nice little backbone, but from tail to head, like it's going to be a different journey to get there than what you might have managed, because you can't guarantee success or failures on your player's part, and you don't know where their imagination is going to take them, so you don't want to like railroad it either.
Yeah.
You know, it's
So
funny
it's
you
like-
mentioned that.
Why?
Just side note, you've heard of The Expanse, book trilogy. You know, it started out as a tabletop RPG.
That I did not know. That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
so it was actually, they were conducting it on a forum where like people could create characters and then engage in the story. So like Holden, like all the main characters are actual real people's players that were a part of the story, and then like they developed it into a book series, which eventually became the show.
So it makes a ton of sense to me now why the world is as deep as it is. Like,
Yes, but if you also
why
look at
there's
like
Belt or Can't and like all that super cool stuff.
right, and if you look at the core like main characters, like Amos, he's a tank. Holden, he's like a paladin. Like they all fulfill these various roles in tabletop RPG world.
That's wonderful.
That makes a lot of sense, because like especially when you have such a diverse bunch of storylines that all kind of like come together in a very interesting way. Like I love those kind of stories, because then especially with first season where you got to see like the different people and the different settings, and then eventually like you see like their activities tying in the background like of a news feed, or whatever, and you're like, they all have seen each other but don't know that their stories are so interconnected, and then for it to all like wind up coming together, I was like, I love those stories. Those are like
so like the main story with Holden and like the ice hauler and everything.
Yeah.
That was like the main story that got started, and then one of the guys who's a part of the pseudonym James S.A. Corey, one of his friends was like, hey, this sounds cool, I want to be a part of it too. So then they started a side campaign for him where he actually created the character Miller and was doing his own investigative stuff. That's why they start off separate, and then it all just kind of came together and they joined it all into one.
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
I have not finished all of The Expanse, but now that really makes me want to go and like see it with a new kind of perspective.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So Ryan, we need to make a pseudonym and turn our adventures into a book like a few years down the road. So just
just keep that in mind. You have
Yeah.
wait, where is he? Over. You have currently someone who has all of the information logged away.
It is true.
The easy reference for those lore keepers. We'll need you when our book deals start coming in.
Well,
And movie
and
offers.
start
Royalties.
tagging
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos
Yes,
and
I get
and
60% of the
everything, too.
profits.
Yeah,
That's
because
right.
you did all the work, right? You have.
Hey,
all the
now
notes.
I put together that beginning thing for
You
Dustin.
did.
So I'm eyeballing this subscribe button that y'all have currently. How long did it take y'all to reach this point of having a subscribe button?
We started in May, I want to say, May or June, and I guess we hit affiliate like in the fall.
Yeah.
Ish, closer to the winter. It was, and honestly, like I have a lot of really amazing support and friends on Discord that even if they weren't completely watching or like completely invested, they would always be there for us. And so just over time, it was just a matter of like slowly building, but having like a nice group of friends that helped me with even getting streaming set up and started. Like, I wouldn't be able. Like, we have our mod, LV. I don't even think she. I don't know. Oh no, she's not, because she would be just finished. She's playing right now. I forgot that it is Monday.
Yes, she does have her game tonight.
But there's a couple people we have in chat right now. Ranger Siphon and Astral and Minty. The Monka I know has been around for a while, but they'll like.
That's Justin.
That's
Oh,
me.
is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that explains a lot. I was like, well, the monk I've seen around a couple of times recently. All right, okay. So there we have a couple of people that will just kind of hang out, and that has helped.
But yeah, case in point, like just building relationships has
And that has helped
been
too.
super important. So
Yeah.
just like, loving like gaming generally, and finding other things to connect with people on, and
Raiding
just supporting
helps.
each other,
Rating helps.
Ryan, I can't remember if you remember, we hit affiliates, but we haven't gone
Hit
through the process
partner.
yet because we've been trying to no, partner's like way down. You have to have like
Okay.
a bajillion things. No, affiliate, you can get the subscription. But we've been like weighing out the running an ad for non-subscribers and how much that might hurt someone sticking around for like discoverability.
Right.
So that's what we
right.
haven't yet.
Gotcha.
I think we were kind of hoping to maybe hit like 10 consistent viewers before we pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Not pulled the plug, started the
See,
process.
Yeah.
I'm just in charge of building the world.
You
Like,
I mean,
they take care of all that.
You have a really big job.
You have a.
They take care of all that. They're
Aw.
awesome for it.
I wouldn't know what to do without the support of my friends, because otherwise I would
I'm
just be
telling
like,
you.
I don't think I could handle doing it all.
You do a ton though, Aaron. Like,
Yeah, we would have no games without our DMs.
It's true.
well, and beyond that too, Aaron is like the backbone for a lot of this, and he's gonna blush because I'm saying this, but
Nope,
it's super
you can't see
true.
me blush if it's not.
Aaron,
that-
take
if
a compliment.
I can't.
The whole group
Take the
of
compliment,
friends
Aaron.
is
Don't
on
hide
the Knights
from
of
it.
Storm Moon Discord and
this
everything.
love.
Like, he's the connective tissue for it. So it's been really wonderful.
And it
So
helps so much having a party where most everyone in our party has DM'd, so they understand and appreciate the work that you put in as a DM.
Yep, that
It
definitely
helps so
helps
much.
a lot.
I mean, shoot, that first time I DM'd for Halloween, I mean, just for that little one shot, like I put in a ton of work just for like one little like 2 hour deal. I can't imagine the ongoing.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
shoot, it's just wow.
Major props to those who do one shots too, because I have a tendency to dive headfirst and get the ADD thing going on, where I just keep going down the rabbit hole of creation, and I'm like, I don't think I'll need to know how many trash cans are down this alley. But,
Oh my gosh, I had so much backstory.
But if you don't
built
plan
into
it,
this world.
that's when they'll go.
that's when they'll ask the question. Yep. It's like,
So how many crates do I see in this room? I'm like,
Well, I've learned, like, just with that one shot, I kind of got like the fundamental idea from like it's like a Reddit thread of like, hey, what are some cool like Halloween ideas for D&D? And I was like, I'm gonna take this like idea and just run with it. But I think for me, like I put so much into the backstory of just this little deal that none of the players ever even got to see or witness, because the way the story progressed, it just it didn't create an opportunity to rear its head, and I wasn't going to just force it down their throats if they didn't go down that road per se. But what it's kind of like helped me realize is, man, that could just be one town of a greater universe that I could create in a campaign down the road. It's like I have everything stored away. I'll do more one shots, and then at some point you can connect it all together and be like, man, this is actually a living, breathing world. So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I'm holding on to.
I love that. My coworker, although I have a very small office, is physically and in terms of like the team, he is a DM as well, and he was actually talking about advising one of his players on running a one shot and saying that, okay, take everything that you built for the campaign and take a third of it, and that's what your players are going to end up seeing. And the rest of it, probably not. But if you're going to do more over time, then those are things that you can pick up and put elsewhere in your world, potentially. They're not gone forever. The work wasn't wasted. And especially if the players have a good experience at the end of the day, those other little special what ifs are things that if you don't think you're going to use, you can share with them, and then that is interesting too. I know we've had times when Aaron has told us after the fact, hey, if you guys had done this, here is this thing that could have gone down. Or like, oh wow, that's really interesting, just to get a glimpse at what might have been had we gone a different direction. So
how on the precipice you were for complete destruction.
Yeah, that too.
So like, speaking of one shots getting implemented into your campaign, this is something that they may end up discovering, they may not, but like there's this one time I built a bank heist one shot, and so that's
cool.
I put too much work into that thing.
Note to self: try to rob a bank next session.
Well,
look for banks.
Well, funnily enough, it has nothing to do with a bank this time.
That's what's interesting, because it doesn't have to be a bank. It could just be a thing at a place.
Yep. Thank you for using vague terms.
Mordivale's
keep them from guessing.
house?
A thing at a place.
No, not Mordivale's house. But yeah.
Speaking of, if you only saw the notes I have on this dang Dreamcatcher mystery.
she messaged me this week, and she's apparently like it's keeping her up at night because of this mystery.
Because Freya is like in charge of, diving down this road for the Black Bloods. And so I was like, okay, these are all the people we know they're in play. Here's potentially how they could be connected to all of this. Okay, I think maybe this and this, but I know no motivation yet, because I know in game we don't know enough yet. But because if you don't write everything down, you forget it all, which is why I take copious amounts of notes.
Bravo to you.
And when we're dealing with two different cults at the same time.
You gotta keep them straight. Making sure the proper information goes in the proper thing.
Yep.
I have a feeling.
Found it. Oh, go ahead. You first.
No, you first. Jeez. Give me a Coke right now. I need a Coke.
I need a Coke. Give me.
No, I was just gonna say, I just little quip about the cults. I feel like one of the cults to us is gonna look like this like massive fish just about to swallow us whole. This is gonna turn out that the other cults are much bigger. Like, well, it's just gonna eat that one up, and we're like, oh, okay, that's what we're dealing with.
Well, and like you've got to prepare for things like scaling, right? So like, if you guys decided to tackle one of them at level 6, and then I got to be ready to scale one of the adventures up for you guys anyway. So yes, you are correct in that statement. There is a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because you guys are talking about Mordenvel's thing.
Mm-hmm.
Our party in the early days before streaming have also been connected with Mordenvel and getting into his house.
How did you run that?
Okay, so our time in Neverwinter was interestingly overly filled with way too much stuff, because this was whenever we jumped from the Mines of Fandelver into Neverwinter before starting this whole other adventure thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had so many plots within subplots, which I think is the point that you guys are at right now. You have a lot of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Mordenvel in our world was closely tied to Lord Neverember and was acting as his major domo, I guess, kind of thing. And for a while, the party was suspecting that Mordenvel was the one that was kind of like puppeteering things.
Mm-hmm.
They wound up making friends with him and found out that was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Wound up finding he was up for being assassinated, and wound up staying in his house to prevent that.
Interesting.
And then wound up failing at said job.
Oh.
And in
this
that process,
is before Iskra was in the party. Let me tell you.
This was before Iskra, definitely. You were still happily in Ravnica at the time, I think.
I mean, you know,
He definitely would not
happily.
have died if Iskra would have been there.
Definitely not. No, and it was like they cared to not keep him alive, but they also didn't really do a lot to try to watch what was going on. So it was kind of like woke up in the morning and they were like, what? The very small amount of work we did to try and keep this from happening failed? I am surprised at this, you know?
Like a sleepover.
What? This is your fault, DM. You did this.
Yeah, basically. Like, it didn't matter what we were going to do. I was like, you protected that house less than you do your camps when you go out in the field. Like, there was just like, what'd you expect was going to happen? One of the characters, who shall remain nameless, wound up like sleeping in the guardhouse with someone. Like, they weren't even like the personal guard of Mordenvel was distracted with somebody else that night. So,
Knights of Silverman getting freaky out here. Okay.
It was a very interesting time at the time. So just like, oh man, the level of guilt on that for that player at the time. They're like, oh no, what have I done? Like, was I the direct cause of this? And I was like,
how was I to know that there would be consequences for my actions?
Man, there's nothing more bittersweet as a DM than allowing your players to reap the consequences of their actions. Like, you leave the village idiot alone in a hostile city.
Oh, why would you have to bring in that?
Hey, that's. I don't think Kristen's forgiven me for that yet.
No, well, no, I haven't forgiven myself, because the one I went to rescue and ruin the whole plan wound up being a second doppelganger. Because my friend was already dead.
And then they later found
his body. Not they. I found it in the basement. Carried him through town. Buried him.
Yep.
We had such a good plan for how that was going to go to, and then the moment she saw that, the plan just went out the window.
But like I said, that was the moment where I was like, now I know exactly who Freya is.
Like, have you seen Infinity War when
Star-Lord ruins
they
everything?
have Thanos like completely under control, and he just like starts wailing on him? That was Freya.
Because man, that was a tough fight too. You guys were surrounded by these magical ballistas. Like,
well, why does everyone pick the same letter for him? Kelkis did great. Like, what did he like? Misty step up to the top or something?
Well, there were three.
He climbed up. I Misty stepped up to one. We all took care of the ballistas.
And I decided to go punch a doppelganger in the face and get surrounded.
Freya got pinned to the ground by one of those ballistas. Like they did, and this is at like level 3 at this point. each of those ballista shots did like 16 damage.
Yeah, and this was
Which
pre-deflect
I was like,
missiles.
What level were you guys at?
3.
3 or 4?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah. So like
That is a whole character level of hit points. 16
and
can
those,
be very easily.
and those bolts were like the size of a gnome.
Yeah.
So like it's like this bolt like ran through Freya and literally pinned her to the ground, unconscious. It was bad.
No.
Well,
Went unconscious a lot in early days.
You know, it's the scars, it's character building, etc., etc., etc.
Literally scars that are character building.
Yeah,
right?
well, when you're a monk and you're fighting a dragon, all you can do is go punch a dragon.
What ended up being your
So-
song for a playlist? Was it I Get Knocked Down?
Yes.
That is one. So Freya, I think I have 13 songs on my Freya playlist right now.
Tub
Um,
thumping
And it's just
that
one song on
Knocked
repeat.
out. You
No,
get up
it's
again.
not. It's not tub thumping on repeat, but that is on the playlist.
I'm pretty sure Greg just has nothing but Taylor Swift on
Yep.
his.
He's
Pretty
added
much.
Olivia Rodrigo probably.
Okay, cool.
He's got there's a little bit of variety in there. That's amazing. Oh God, wait, hold on. Continue, because there was a thought and it just went like,
Someone once asked
Yeah,
me
so with the
about
dragon
songs
fight,
for
I
Istra,
was
and I have no
like-
idea.
I'm gonna go
Oh.
hold on to his leg and just punch his leg, so I can't get breath weaponed if I'm on his leg. And that's when he was like, you know what? I'm gonna fly up and impale you on this demon tree.
hmm
But great moment. I asked Ryan if I could have been impaled in the shoulder, and I was like, so my feet are still free, right? So then I got to kick him, deal some damage.
She's sitting there pinned to the tree, just like trying to kick this undead green dragon.
I dealt damage that way.
yeah,
you
you managed. You did your thing. You did your
Mhm.
monk thing. Did the monk thing.
Got to use slow fall for the first time, jumping out of the tree at like 3 hit points.
Yes.
Ryan was like,
Oh.
you're gonna jump out of the tree. I was like, nope, no damage.
Those moments as a player where you get to stick it to your DM.
Yeah, my favorite monk moments are like slow fall and like deflect missiles, where I just go, nope.
Mm-hmm. No, can't do
This not this last game, but the last game before that, we had some phase spiders that were going around, and any of their bites would cause, aside from the piercing, it was also poison damage. And then Sandra was like, actually, it doesn't, because monks don't get poison.
Well, we
or
just got
don't-
that this level
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what level are y'all
So-
at now?
10. Yeah, so they now have where they are they don't take any poison damage or poison status, and I was like, cool. Write
so
that
what's-
down.
So what's your? Did I hear Feywild?
Phase spiders.
Phase spiders.
Mhm.
Okay, I
But
thought
They're
I
like
heard
this. you know,
Feywild stuff.
We have had Feywild stuff with
Okay.
previous characters.
Okay, what's your Feywild like, Aaron?
The brief time that we've had stuff with the Feywild was with our character, one of the previous characters named Pigug, and he, on their last level up, they had found some portals, some Fey portals, and you know when you're there, you try not to talk to anything, touch anything, eat
Yes.
anything, do anything.
Okay. Yes.
Just carefully, gingerly walk back out is your best bet.
Mhm.
They didn't do that, and so Pigug wound up
Yes.
seeing a small creature that was in a gilded cage hanging in a
Mhm.
tree and thought that was just normal. And then when the creature started asking for help, also thought this creature obviously is trapped and it needs to be freed. Pigug, mind you, is a fighter, half orc fighter. He was the one who kind of like he talked in the third person a lot, so Pigug
Yes.
doesn't like this, and
Uh-huh.
embraced his orc side more so than anything else.
Yes.
So everyone was like, no, and then he broke the cage and let the thing out. Turned out that thing was a trapped archfey. That was, I mean, he had talked about wanting to maybe multi-class into warlock. And he's like, I don't have anything specific in mind. He's like, so I'm gonna let you.
Worst thing you can ever tell a DM.
Worst and best, depending on what kind of pain you want. But he's like, I kind of was thinking about maybe doing a warlock thing, and I was like, okay. He's like, because I kind of would like to give him a little bit of some spice to his fighter life, and I was like, all right, I can work with this. But he didn't want to know when it was going to pop in or how I was going to implement it. And so I kind of did the same thing where I kind of knew Pigug's mentality. He loves shiny things, and a gilded cage is freaking shiny, and he likes rescuing and keeping things safe that are small and defenseless. So I was like, well, let's see how this plays out. And so then from that,
That's so great.
There was a
shiny plus small and defenseless. Perfect Pigug
perfect.
bait.
It had the big press me button on it, so he pressed it. And this Archfey is not necessarily evil. Kind of has Artagan vibes ish. For Kristen, you know what I mean. Kind of like chaos thing, but not. I had read a book a long time ago that was like heavily fantasy inspired, very Chronicles of Narnia, like, and it had like the courts of the seasons. And I had done some research into what the Feywild can be, and I love that it's basically Alice in Wonderland. Like you can do anything and everything there you can imagine. So I was like, all right, I kind of like that like mobility of storytelling. So this suddenly we had this whole like very epic like visual of this guy's basically part of the summer court, and he'd been imprisoned by the winter court, and so then now this Pigug is his champion, and he's like, I need you have great strength and you have a good heart, but I need you like a little bit better. So he basically opened his mind in a way, and so I allowed him to kind of mix up his
Total Recall.
Yes. Kind of like I allowed him to play with his levels a little bit. I was like, I'll give you like 3 levels to toy with. Like you can lose those fighter levels and get him as warlock or whatever. So we went with that. And that was kind of the last time we went into the Feywild. And shortly after that, Pigug is whenever we started going to online sessions. And so then Pigug was like, I can't work from home and then could just be on the computer all day. He's like, so I'll have to take a step back for a while. And I was like, no, it's cool. So he went off to go, he inherited a group of pirates and became their king. So he is both like, the champion of a Archfey and now king of the sand pirates out in the desert. And he's happy as a clam, I think. So that was our last time with the Fae, but I kind of have been throwing it around a little bit more. Our main focus lately, though, has been like Fae, because our players at the time had not really been into Star Wars at all. So the plot line, if I was going to like put it into a short thing, is like Rebels versus the Empire. So our characters are kind of like the rebellion gathering forces against this empire that's already taken over most of Faerun. And so that's kind of where they are at the moment, is focused on that. But I'm eager and also mortified at the prospect of going back to the Feywild, because and I saw in the first couple episodes, I think you had something with the was it the Netherese were from there?
The Netherese.
The Netherese, right. But that was exciting. Again,
I feel like Ryan is intentionally not saying anything else. Because I think that's a plot thread we have not plugged yet.
Yep. Yeah. So I've got they've had their run-ins with the Netherese.
Yeah.
The Netherese in my world have. Okay, so there's the spell plague essentially brought them to this realm, tore the fabric between realms wide open.
Yeah.
These Netherese ended up here in this realm and they're essentially trying to get back. However, that's going to require a lot of something that they do not currently have, and they're going to get whatever they need to eventually, by any means necessary.
Maybe. Yeah.
Good to note as we deal with a bugbear who's currently tattooed with a crazy spell.
Yes.
Man,
I am so interested to see how you guys end up resolving that.
and like, oh my gosh,
You have how many days left, Justin?
I mean, there's only been like 3 days that have passed in game.
3 days of like 3 weeks.
Yep. I honestly, this is one of those things where like I'm sort of prepared for how Fongor is going to like react to some of this stuff, but I genuinely kind of just want to see how Dustin and Linux work this out. Like, it's going to be really interesting.
I can't wait.
My struggle.
I'm both
though,
excited and terrified.
Yeah, I imagine.
My honest struggle is I really try not to bully Linux or like discourage Justin from like playing his character and playing the game. I don't want him to feel bullied.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like his patron's a bad dude. So I try walking this fine line with him, you know?
I mean, you know, I'm used to it. Art imitates stuff.
Imitates life. You know, I think that's part of the reason why I love Warlock so much is that they have already built-in drama, or can have built-in drama, like from the get-go because of that. Like your patron, you thought was, you know, it's one of those open the genie and ask carefully for what you want to wish for because
the monkey's paw.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what to expect when playing a warlock. I was just thought, oh, cool, I can make a sword appear out of nowhere. I like that, you know, like.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, and a 1d12 cantrip. Yes, please.
Yes.
Right.
Here for
I mean,
that.
again, I'm new to D&D. Like I haven't really, you know, and like in any other RPG, I've always played like the ranger type or whatever. So, you know, doing D&D, I'm like, you never get to experience a warlock in an actual game setting. So it's like, oh, I'm going to try this out. It's new. It's different. So
that's super good. Well, like props to jumping into a class like that then, because that's really cool. Like they come with really fun role-playing implications. How have you liked it so far playing a warlock rather than like a ranger character?
I've loved it, honestly. It's vastly different from just, you know, throwing some arrows down range and seeing what sticks.
You're right.
Point and shoot.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, you know, I honestly, I think what I like the most is it's almost like a Kobayashi Naru situation of like, how is Linux going to come out on top of this situation? It seems like a no-win scenario of how does he not forfeit his soul, but also, you know, like further hit, you know, it's a weird dynamic. So I haven't even talked to Ryan about this yet, but I have in my mind ideas on how I want to play it out, which we do need to talk. But yeah, you know, it's like how closely can you touch the iron without getting burned is the best way to describe this relationship with Linux and his patron.
That's Aliquin's going through the same thing.
I feel like that's a common occurrence in Warlockville because it's like you want to gain more power, and with that becomes more price to that power, and what is that price going to be? And
right, and that's the thing. Like with Linux, it never really was I need more power. It was he found himself in a situation that he literally needed a Deus Ex Machina moment to get him out of it, and it just so happened to be that, you know, entering into a pact with a, you know, patron unknowingly is what got him out of it.
Yeah, here's the patron, here's the help that responded if you're willing to take it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So now he's, you know, it was sit and rot in a jail cell, or, you know, let this mysterious being spring you out, not realizing it's going to cost way more than you know what you're already paying.
Man, I can't wait to learn more.
And that fighting, that like fighting for every day lines up so well with your backstory.
Yeah,
like you know, sort of street kid vibes. I won't give away too much or anything, but
Chris is like over here with a pen.
No, I'm just thinking, is the only one without like a tragic backstory. It's really interesting to learn theirs because mine's literally like, all right, well, I joined the military at 18 and just kind of been doing my thing ever since. I think my parents are still alive.
Oh my gosh, you're like so privileged. Like I cannot wait. I cannot wait for you guys to head down to Waterdeep and them get to like hang out with your family. It's gonna be the weirdest thing. I've already got it
in our group
out.
chat after the Fior run-in, I was like, guys, is Freya that kid that goes to college? And it's like, wait a minute, people are kind of racist.
Yes.
Oh man.
And it wasn't like written with that intention. It was. So I got about an hour's notice that, hey, someone can't play. Do you want to join this campaign? Sure. Monk sounds fun. Why not make it a soldier backstory? She's got a bunch of siblings. But
I'll say
I'm
this.
having more fun because I passed it over to Ryan and I was like, I know he's going to do terrible things with this like full alive family.
Here's
I've
all
given
this
him.
big happy family,
Yes.
easily accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I really wouldn't say
What is
that
it?
Linux's backstory is necessarily tragic per se.
Definitely not tragic.
Mysterious then.
As a DM,
Nice.
I have definitely never done anything like that whatsoever and taken information that my players gave me in confidence and turned it against them. Never have I
Never.
ever.
I did have an idea, Ryan, of something you might do, but I don't want to tell you in case you haven't thought of it, because I don't want to bring that into the world if you haven't.
No, go ahead, hit me with it right here, right now on the air.
I did message you a long time ago about my younger brother, about Freya's younger brother. And I was like, no, like what I originally told you didn't feel right. I think he's like left to go like figure out where he fits into the world because he kind of feels like the oddball in this big family. And then I was like, oh, he's gonna show up as part of one of these like cults later, isn't he?
No.
Why would that ever happen?
No, he's not already out there. No.
No. Of course.
That was literally just like, just gonna give this to you, and I'm gonna back away.
Hey, Aaron,
It's gonna come back to hurt me later.
How many factions, like enemy factions, like big story arcs do you currently have, either discovered by the party or not?
Probably 3. One major one, and the 2 others work for this major one. But so we just have the Red Wizards, we have the children, the Cult of the Dragon, and then we have the Zentharim, which is like the spy organization. So those are like the 3 main ones. There's like, I guess, I don't know if I'd really count the warlock, the whole patrons that Aliquin's part of, like the other groups. They're not necessarily a evil entity, but they're, I guess, a faction. But as far as bad factions go, like those 3 are the ones that we've dealt with.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Aliquin's
kind of a
warlock
big
stuff feels like something that if the party survives to a campaign 2, like could maybe become really important then, or something like that. But it does feel like there's things heating up, like simmering for later story stuff.
later
but
story
yeah,
time.
let's the Red
How
Wizards
about
for
you,
sure.
Ryan?
Well, I'll say this, speaking from a player's perspective, with Linux's patron, my thought was, like I said, get a cool flashy sword, got some little dude on my shoulder saying stuff from time to time or whatever. Never expected, and this is me just kind of filling in blank spaces that we have as players. I feel like it's safe to say that Linux's patron plays a much bigger part in the grand scheme of what we're dealing with, instead of what I thought was just going to be like, oh, that I'm just talking to myself, like just y'all don't mind me. Let's go, chase these like bandits, whatever. I didn't expect it to be a much bigger, encompassing thing than it seems to be. So
yeah, he's been named as what, like the, I forgot how you phrased it. He works for Asmodeus.
He's the judicator of Asmodeus.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, I thought I was just getting some 9 to 5 demon.
I don't think the party knows that outside of Linux, but we as players know that. Ninny might know that.
Although I can say though that like sometimes when a DM gets likes stuff that a character has in their backstory or that a character does, it can help grow that into something beyond what was initially expected, right? Like it can be something that's like, oh wow, this is actually a really cool thread. Let's see what sweater we get out of it, like.
And I'll tell you, real talk here to kind of feed off what you were saying, Harriet. We like whenever we first started this campaign, the first thing I told every player was, give me your backstory.
Awesome.
The more you give me, the more engaging I can make this for you. Flush out your motivations, your weaknesses. What does your character hate? Why do they hate it? Why do they love what they love? All of these different things. And you can tell, like this is where the real talk portion comes in. You can tell who's given me the most in the engagement levels in my campaign. Like there are some characters who don't get nearly as much touches as Freya or Lennox, because I as a DM have not been given enough tools to work with. I try my best, but I'm sure you can understand that.
100%.
Yep. And like all you're doing, listen, all of you watching, all you're doing as a player is shooting yourself in the foot if you don't give your DM some stuff to work with.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you hear about people joking in real life about being like, "Oh, I'm the main character," like in their respective lives. But I don't know. I just had this thought, and I still have the fork, by the way. I just had this thought that I'm actually using it as like a, tool now.
Yeah.
It's almost like the little tiny hands that just kind of pop up. Like this now.
Take my strong hand.
But I feel like as a DM, if you can frame it in a way for a player and just say like, hey, in terms of writing your character, give me your backstory. Give it to me as if you are the main character in this world. And then with the DM can then take that information and then kind of, assimilate it into the various weavings and undercurrents that are going on.
Then also understand if you're starting at level 1, you're going to have a level 1 backstory.
That's true.
Which is the cool thing about Lucius, is that he's like 500 years old.
Yeah.
But because he drank himself blind for like 200 years, he's rediscovering all these spells that he had learned in the past, allowing him to start at a level 1 character.
That is actually a really cool aspect, because we have Kindred, who's also like several hundred years old, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, well then either you solve the foundation of the world, kind of thing, or like he had, for his own reasons, he also has that like kind of like an amnesia-ish kind of thing where like a couple of years are just fuzzy, where he had a concept of what his life was before that, and then is finding out that these memories were implanted, and then they're kind of like changing as he goes along. But I like that, because when I've realized that there was something like, oh, I've been around for a long time. I think it was in one of the first few episodes I watched. And he's like, well, yeah, well, I don't remember. They'd have a little bit of a spot where the memories are not there.
But it's funny because like, Lennox being half elf and growing up in the same area that Lucius was from.
Yeah.
We make quips about like, I think off stream before we started streaming, Lucius, wove some grandiose tale about his, escapades back in the day. So I looked at Ryan and I was like, hey DM, like, can I know about that? It's like, roll the history. It's like, yeah, you read it in the history books. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. But then it fast forward to, Lennox reconnecting with one of his, cohorts from, his home, kind of sharing like, hey, these are the people I'm running with right now. Let me describe them to you. He's like, oh yeah, Lucius Sundance. Like we read about him like growing up. Yeah, he's not always cracked up to be like,
Yeah.
That scene though, with you like talking about us, none of us are there. We were like, what? This is what he thinks about us?
Yes.
The truth comes out. Dum.
Well, and it was all positive for the most part, which is the craziest thing, because Lennox really plays that close to the chest. That's what I love about Justin's character. He He doesn't dish out free information. He doesn't let you know what he thinks of you. But whenever he opens up, it's actually beautiful stuff. He seems to enjoy these people that he's found himself walking with.
That's super cool. And it's cool that you as the DM gave that character the opportunity, like Justin's character, the opportunity to say these things, because like it's hard to play a character who is internal unless you can find opportunities to like express that in some other way during a game. Otherwise, nobody knows. They just think that you're just a really quiet player,
Well, it's funny because like I'll have like out of character conversations. Like, I work with Greg who plays Lucius, and literally we were working yesterday and I called across the room. We didn't have any customers in the store. And I was like, all right, Greg, what's it going to take to get Lucius to be a part of this daggone, fighting tournament? And like, we talked out of character, but like even out of character, I still held like, I don't give too much to our other players because I want it to, naturally come out in the story.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, we talked a little bit and it's, you can have this conversations out of character without giving anything away, but still having a frame of reference of, we know how we can help the story progress in a certain direction based on, little cues, here and there.
I love that.
Because if you think about it, like you can look back to, like, okay, we can objectively as players agree, okay, these conversations were had in the game, even though we may not remember them, so we can remind each other. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, based on, how these interactions went, we know these character motivations so that we can tap into those, later on and have those conversations. That's why, Kristen and I had that retcon at the beginning of this last session. Yeah. Because, as soon as the session was over, I was like, wait a second, when Freya have, been frustrated about that on the way back to the tavern, because that would have given Lennox a ton of leverage to convince her to be a part of the fighting tournament so he can pursue his own selfish gains.
That was pretty great bringing it in.
Turn me to the dark side.
And I think that's I sound like a broken record, but that's why fleshing out your world is the most crucial thing. And I'm not talking about details. I'm talking about what's the life, the essence. What are the rhythms of your world? Because then you can integrate your players into that world. You find the natural places where a scrappy street kid in over his head with a warlock ends up, or where a bugbear who is a circus runaway ends up. And whenever a player character feels like a natural fit, they do things in and of themselves, like they start to understand their place in the world, and they start telling the story for you as a DM.
Yep.
That's why it's so important to know your world so that your players can know it and run with it and have fun in it.
Ryan, I got a question for you, and I don't know if this has been asked before, like on the last stream. What has been your most surprising moment so far in our campaign?
Okay, so most surprising moment. There's been a couple. I mean, just the part where I was taken most off guard was whenever y'all did Wave Echo Cave in reverse. That was the most difficult. That one caught me the most off guard, off kilter. Most surprising, honestly, was that moment, Lennox, where you and Ninny opened up to each other around the campfire in Lucius's tiny hut, and you basically told each other, you revealed more in a couple sentences than you had the entire campaign to anyone, let alone someone who has potential ties to your patron.
Right.
That was surprising. I did not expect Ninny to open up to you, and I did not expect you to open up to her. But it seems little, but that moment blew like my expectations for the rhythms of the story wide open.
Yeah.
Just in a couple sentences, but because I know motivations and stuff, well, I was able to make those adjustments on the fly. But you guys don't even at this point understand how huge that conversation was.
Yeah. And like from Linux perspective, it was he has, in terms of what he's going through, he has no common ground whatsoever with. I mean, now he does to a degree with Fior, but up until then, Lucius, Freya, Fior. I mean, like they're in a completely different world than what he's dealing with. So for him to know that Nini understands is what allowed him to be able to actually have a conversation about it.
Yep. And also, this is a moment where I think a player might have engaged with the world a little too hard. Greg, he's looking into the possibility of dropping Lucius, because Lucius would take the guardianship of the Wave Echo Cave so seriously that he's like, man, my character's not going to leave Phandalin. So like, do I just leave him there? Do I need to roll a new character? Like, that surprised me as well, that y'all have been grafting yourselves into this world. So
it's funny because
sorry, Aaron and Harriet, to just sort of run with this.
I'm really
this
loving
is great.
it personally.
Well, I was messing with Greg yesterday because I knew that was kind of he keeps saying like, hey, I can't stick around Neverwinter. I need to get back to Phandalin. I need to get back to Wave Echo Cave. And I was messing with you yesterday. I was like, dude, you're like Jack Shepherd from Lost. Like, we gotta go back, Kate. We gotta go back.
But as someone who knows a little bit more about what the future might hold for him as a player, it's going to be exciting.
Just, I pray to God it's not Meepo.
Don't worry, it's not Meepo.
Oh man,
who's Meepo?
We don't even have time to unpack Meepo. Do we?
Meepo, the hero bold. It is one of Greg's
Meepo
characters.
is an NPC in Yawning Portal.
Okay. Nice.
Greg
but
has turned him
Greg
into
has
like
a joke
this.
character that's like a folk hero barbarian kobold.
Yes.
Oh,
And
yes.
his name is
I love
Meepo the hero bold. And I've played in one shots with Greg where like he's the DM.
Yeah.
And you're doing all this stuff, and then like at the end of it, all of a sudden Meepo shows up out of nowhere and saves the day. You're like, why did we do this if Meepo's just going to show up and be the hero? Like, let us be the hero.
Yeah, he's like a kobold who turns into like a barbarian dragonborn or something like that.
Oh, this is amazing.
Don't worry, Meepo is not showing up.
Meepo ex machina.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
We have two kobolds also, so who have made appearances in the game world, because we've got Zur, currently a member of Barrel's Baddies in their finale, which is coming up, and then we have Tricky, who is Gleel's other character.
Gleel's other character. Oh my gosh.
I'm still waiting for like a kobolds in a trench coat situation to happen.
Hey, Aaron, I'm gonna actually turn Coulter's question around to you. At what moment did your characters most surprise you? Your players just floor you.
The one that I guess, well, because I kind of mentioned, I feel like I talked about it before at one point with you guys, but I don't remember if we did it on the stream. It was like when I first introduced the character, the NPC Carp, and he was like this little kid. And it was just going to be like a little side quest thing before I wrote a campaign around it. Was like that he would just kind of like watch after him is kind of what it was going to be. And I thought for sure most of these characters had this like quasi aversion to children in the game. And it's not like you always put a bunch of kids in there, but they were just kind of like, kid, whatever.
Yeah.
They flocked to this kid's, like, they became all dads like overnight. And I was just like,
Yes.
oh, okay. It was like one person, it was Galil's like charge. He was the one who needed to take care of it. But like Kindred stepped in and taught him how to read and write. And then Sean, who was playing a character named Tempest, came in and like gave him like all these like really emotional like self-confidence and believe in yourself kind of thing. And Marcus did the same thing over like a couple of fireside chats. So like, don't be, and this was a part that it surprised me for their decision, but then also really was early enough in playing D&D where it made me realize the emotional impact that you can have on each other, saying things in a game that at face value, you're like, it's just lines between characters, but you take it so to heart and so personally that I was blown away, because Carp wasn't necessarily me as a kid, but it was me playing a little kid. And then to have like both Tempest and Kindred telling this boy who was like 9 and learning that he could use magic and didn't know, his whole life had been told to keep it like locked away, like do not show this to anybody because bad things can happen if you show this to the wrong, that you are this young and can do these things. But he trusted these individuals, and then they were like, don't, like, never be afraid of who you are on the inside, like be proud of who you are as a person, because you are unlike anybody that you will ever meet. You are a unique individual and you should cherish that. And I was and can still be literally on the verge of breaking down in tears thinking about that, because that was something that me as a kid, not that I heard the opposite of that, but I heard the opposite of that a lot, because in my family, I was the creative one. I was the one that was always writing stories. I was the one that was always being silly and goofy and stuff. And my more on my dad's side, but there was more of the like, okay, calm down, like bring it down a notch. And then when I would write these random stories as a kid, the one that particularly comes to mind is I wrote of the day the Earth lost gravity. Don't ask me why, as a 10-year-old, I was writing about the day the Earth lost gravity, but I did. And he was just like, where did you learn this? Like, where did you learn where did this come from? And I was like, I just made it up. And he was just like, my dad is very math-minded and very logical. And I was
literally thinking in my mind, like, go study math, boy.
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly that. And he was like, you can do this, but you can't, because he was like, you can't do, like, you have a hard time with math. Like, if you applied yourself to this, like, so hearing this from another player as now an adult, I was just like, you know, it was just so cool, but so surprising that I had not, like, that was probably my most surprising moment in D&D. I've had some surprising moments, but that was the one that like really will always forever like hit me, because I just did not expect this game to do that. You know, it's like everyone's playing pretend, and it's just, you know, telling stories all together, and then to actually like be able to impart a little bit of something that hits like you on the inside. I don't get that from playing games, you know.
I mean, I know I was joking earlier when I said art imitates life, but like in a sense it really does, you know. I didn't, and of course we haven't really dove into Linux's backstory, but I was literally thinking the other day, you just kind of like, you know, putting the pieces together, and I was like, a lot of like my real life, there's like metaphor in Linux's backstory that pertains to my life. You know, so interested to like see how that fleshes out in the campaign, and you know what direction that goes, because you know, I was like, he's a little bit more like me than I thought he was. Minus, you know, I don't have like some, you know, demonic patron like waking me up in the middle.
Do you have something to know us
that we know of?
That's called the weight of life.
Oh gosh, for real, right?
Nobody has any strange tattoos that they recently got on them, right? Nobody.
You know, that's like something that like never ceases to surprise me about D&D. Whenever you start having an emotional connection to things that exist solely on paper and in your brain.
Yep.
And like you experience them together. That's something like whenever you sit down and try to explain D&D to someone who's completely uninitiated, and you're like, well, you know, the dungeon master makes a world and the players play in it, and they just don't understand the emotional connection that you just cannot experience anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like a shared storytelling with rules, nobody gets too crazy. But like, oh my gosh!
But at the same time,
so
like,
great.
The D&D world is your oyster. Like, you're only limited by your collective imagination.
Absolutely.
I think what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought.
Oysters.
Oh, dang it. Oh, no. Well, yeah, oysters. No, I was just talking about being like emotionally invested. I'll be honest, like I am not ready to say goodbye to Linux. So anytime we start like getting into like dire situations fight, like that, we had one situation where, Wave Echo Cave, we're doing it backwards, and Linux got like he was up forefront, and he gets knocked down like 3 times. I was like, this is it. Like eventually, I was like, oh my god, I'm not ready for him to die, and like I was like, Michael Jordan, like I took it personally. No one was helping me. Like they were all like,
and then in Cragmaw Castle, I think at one point we're all just like, I don't have a backup character. I don't have a backup character for this.
Well, see, what's funny? I have like 5, and they're all like, I have really
Lennox Jr., Lennox the Third.
Yep, there you go. No, I have a paladin character that I want to play at some point, but none of the subclasses really worked out for the story I wanted to craft around this character. So I'm actually writing my own subclass, and it's called like Oath of the Inquisitor.
Cool.
And his whole premise is going to be like, seeking out these people who have become heretics of his faith, or like abandon the faith and try to bring them back to it. But the whole idea of the story is, it turns out that the faith that he thought he was a part of and doing good for actually isn't that great, kind of deal. Love to flesh that out. I literally just wrote down, you were talking about your child character with the whole like don't do magic kind of stuff. I literally just wrote down a notepad. Multiple personality disorder, wild magic sorcerer. So when you roll from the wild magic table, whenever you land, maybe that triggers a different personality that your character takes over.
Oh man,
yeah,
man, you sure you don't want to be a DM? Like you're coming up with some crazy stuff out here, dude.
See, that's the thing. I can start these threads, but I become ADHD and I just don't finish them. That's why I love the one-shot format. If you can focus enough on a one-shot, enough of those at a time, and then connect them all together, you have a campaign.
You have a campaign, yes. Yes.
I just need to get to work.
Want to ask the 2 DMs, what's been your favorite role play moment to like sit back and get to watch?
Aaron, that's you, bud. You take us off on that. I'll
Oh no.
carry up the rear.
I'm trying to think of recently. Man, I think
there's been a lot of really good ones that I've heard about, though.
Yeah,
like in our other lore dumplings, like with the previous like the OG crew.
I'm trying to think of one recently though that you guys were in, because there's been several that I'm just like flabbergasted at. Like, I think a lot, especially now seeing Aloquin coming out of this madness thing, and like seeing some of his connections with the other players kind of expanding from more of a background character to now kind of being more forefront has been really interesting. But I think, I don't know. There's been some good, probably favorites. Some of my top favorites were like when we were in Silvery Moon and the party was under duress, guests of the Red Wizards, and some of the interactions with this head Red Wizard that we had created for this place. All of the, Ryan, I'm sure you're familiar with the Lords Alliance, right? So all of the,
oh yeah,
for this campaign, all of the lords in the Alliance were all taken out in one night.
Whoa.
And were either taken out, quote unquote, or change their allegiance to the Empire, and now have a head like Red Wizard that's kind of either co-ruling or ruling this area. So we had one that was this lady was a dragon-born wizard of divination that was in charge of Silvery Moon, and Silvery Moon's basically has a Hogwarts for magic there. And so the players, because she knows what's happening in her city, kind of got cornered, and then they were like, I want you to be a guest in our school while I have something that I want to get from one of the players, and like seeing the interactions that they would came up with to like pretend that they were someone that they weren't. I was like, oh yes, because suddenly Kindred was like pretending to be a red wizard to kind of go along with this lady's plan, and Iskra was her like second / personal bodyguard, and they were like kind of trying to find out more information from this son of one of the high-ranking members of the Cult of the Dragon, and like they did this whole like off play of each other like so well. It's like, I know you guys didn't rehearse this, but dang, this
was
is
really fun.
This
it
was
was
good.
so much fun playing that with Kindred for sure. I was actually gonna like, because I mean, for the DMs, but I really want to answer this too. Galil and Kindred, their interaction when Kindred was on like the operating table basically before, and the moments after that and leading up to that, I thought were really, really great. I liked watching those, even though Iskra wasn't there. Like watching it as a player was like, oh my gosh. Just the way that
because they are two of our
Kindred looks
original
definitely
players.
really scared.
He told me later he was terrified.
Oh man,
he was getting a Amaranth was basically trying to perform operation surgery on him and remove something that she thought was physically inside of him, and it turned out not to be the case. But because she doesn't care if he lives or dies, she kind of did this whole like no anesthesia, did not put him under, just started cutting into like his shoulder area to like remove this thing that was there, but it wasn't what she thought it was. And so Galil was there in the room to make sure that nothing bad happened, but then realized he couldn't move because she had placed a whole person on him. And so she just like cut Kindred open, and it was really, really like squeamish, and you could see like the sweat coming down Kindred's face as he was just like, am I gonna live? Is this how I die? Like, what about for you, Ryan? I'm turning this on you now.
Okay. So I can think of 3 moments specifically where I saw the party come together in some really fun ways. One of them was Kelkus's funeral.
That was nice.
Where the players just came together, all said their own piece about Kelkus. Some vulnerabilities were shared. Bigby's funeral for Freya, burying the town idiot, this NPC, I realized, man, Freya's got a heart of gold. And man, I honestly, our moment around the creek, right, not too far away from Wyvern Tor, where everyone just kind of unwound and like had a beach day, was really, really special, because like every 3 people in the party have got some pretty serious hangups, like walls that they've built as like defense mechanisms for themselves, and to see those sort of collapse, it's always wonderful as a DM to see how your players get to know each other. So yeah, those 3 specific moments. Death is another tool. I see death as another tool to be used by a DM to enhance the experience of your players. I mean, it's negative, sure, but any tool used properly can really do some amazing things for your players.
Yep.
Because as DMs, our primary goal is to make sure our players have fun.
That's true. And as long as they're enjoying the roller coaster of emotions that we're providing for them.
Aaron, do you also get post-stream text at like 1 a.m. about different things that have happened and character motivations? And because I know I'll send those to Ryan. I don't know if anyone else does.
I have before. Normally it's like, because we'll sit in either in Discord or in the Zoom call afterwards, and there's like, okay, So I want to talk to you about it. Kindred's usually the one who'll be like, he'll send me like, I need to talk to you about wizard stuff at some point this week. And he'll go have this like a laundry list of things like, do you think I can do this? I want to try and do this. I want to learn this. I'm like, okay. We'll get there. But yeah, no, I definitely have, not everybody. And to kind of go on what we had talked about earlier, and we'll wrap it up because I know it's late for you guys as well. But that's where character backstories, kind of like the players who you can tell really have put a lot into their character. You know, like they'll have a good backstory, or they ask you questions like that and kind of want to like see where things go. I love that. That's like, it makes, like he said, makes my job so much easier, because then you just build your world around that. And that's where this Game of Santos campaign came from, was the collective backstories of everybody's character and finding a way to like tie it together to where suddenly everything made sense for them, and they were like, oh, we don't know each other, but there is a little bit of something that had to do with everybody that kind of like tied it back to this overarching thing and how it was kind of setting up. And that was something that I had read in a very early how to DM thing, was like using not to underestimate using your character's backstory to help you tell the story, because it'll make the player feel special that their backstory is kind of carrying the story along, but at the same time it makes it personal. You can make it personal for each and every one of them in however you're planning it, and that is like what brings in, I think, or facilitates a player getting invested in your story, in the story, is if they have that little personal connection with the overall.
If I ever DM like for an actual campaign, I think it's cool like what Matt Mercer's done, where at least some of the characters like know each other prior to the campaign start.
That helps too.
Kind of forces them into like, you already know each other, you're already going to interact with each other like on a different level. It kind of spurs on some of that, like gets rid of the awkward like first session, like, you know, who are we and how do we interact?
Or in the future when we get to campaign 2, I can see us doing something like that, especially like as we've come to know each other as like role players and as like D&D players.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, everyone here has been a DM at some point, correct?
Yes.
Okay, can we close with one more question, Aaron? I know
Sure.
it's late for y'all too,
No.
but like this just entered my head. I need to know.
We are not the ones that are parental units. So
okay, so
my kid finally passed out like after me getting up 6 or 7 times at the start of this.
So let's go in this order: Kristen, Justin, Harriet, Aaron, then me.
Okay,
that's just how it's laid out on my screen.
Sure.
What is your biggest fear as a DM?
Ooh.
Whenever you're DMing, what is your biggest fear and why?
I learned that I am not good at reacting to just like the sheer volume of improvisation that goes into it. Like I love reacting as a singular character to have this like one person, but when like, because like you said, Ryan, you're playing the whole world. That is too much for me to react to and to keep track of. And just getting comfortable enough with improving, because it took me like several sessions into Curse of Strahd where I was like, okay, Crawford is not going to come to my house and yell at me if I change something in the book. Like I don't have to go word for word what it says or does.
He might yell at you on Twitter, but
that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Coulter, how about you?
Before doing that first campaign or that first one shot, I thought I thought improving was going to be my biggest, like hang up. But I kind of naturally fell into like the different characters and have to do like off the cuff stuff based on the way the players, like progress the story. I honestly, I think for me, my biggest fear as a DM is putting together this elaborate interwoven story that I want my players to experience, but for them to literally, instead of opening door number 1 where all of that stuff is waiting, they just had to go through door number 2, and then it all just kind of gets put on a shelf and never gets touched.
Like a love thing, right? Like I love you guys. I want you guys to experience all this.
Yeah, but instead you want to go, murder hobo this town that has nothing to do with.
Yeah. Okay. Harriet, how about you? What's your biggest fear when you're DMing?
I guess two-parter.
Yes.
Ultimately I want the players to have a good time, right?
Mhm.
So if they come away from it, and the party fought the whole time, or they didn't enjoy the story that I tried to tell for them, then that's what I definitely worry about. But from like a little mechanic thing, I don't like running combat. I'm really bad at numbers, so that's tough. And I don't like having to answer what the price of something is.
I like that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I actually am reaping the consequences of not understanding the gold scaling in my world. I feel that.
oh man.
So those are my answers there. And then quickly to the chat. Yeah, Sonder, I really like some of Saunder's like little, like for our previous question, his little moments with himself, just interacting with his deity, and just little things that he will do as a character.
Which, P.S. Sonder is a monk of the Platinum Order of Bahamut. So having seen Freya fight a monk from the Platinum Order of Bahamut last session, I was
just destroyed one of your brothers.
I was like, oh,
that was really cool.
I love that. Anyway, yes. I forgot to mention that earlier, but I was like, I loved that there was that connection. I was like, oh, look at that. You've already fought Sonder.
Yep.
You guys, all three of you have already hit on things that I am like are on my list of fears, and I'm realizing that I have a longer list of fears than I thought I did. But because I will say that probably my biggest fears is making combat not challenging is not the word I was looking for, but challenging enough to where, but also meaningful, where it's not just a XP grinder kind of thing where it's just you're fighting the random slimes. Now, like I want it to actually have a purpose, I suppose. But my and knowing the price of things, also big time. Do not like that'll be 5 copper for this ale, sir. Like, just like I don't know. I need it.
Justin, we're all going shopping again tomorrow.
But the other thing that I have learned to fear is libraries or bookcases.
Oh gosh, that's a good one.
Because Kindred and Sonder both gravitate and so like a couple of the other ones that started a long time ago too. But anytime that I would describe as this room has a bookcase in it, what are the books are there? I'm like, they're just books.
What does
I'm
it say inside the books?
Yes,
who's the author?
That was the thing. That was the other thing. I was like, I would give them like a list of like random book titles, and they're like, all right, I'm gonna grab this book, and this book. And what do they say? And I'm just like,
that's when you have an Elder Scrolls wiki like pulled up on the different screens. Like, Lusty Argonian maid.
Or like, what languages do you speak? Oh, sorry, those are written into other languages.
Which I would say
they're all cookbooks.
They're all. This is interesting. Yeah, Tusk Love. Just 1,000 dog-eared copies of Tusk Love. Amazing. Yeah, no, I thought about that too. I was like, wait, all those bookcases I've seen in games, like, I've never once thought about, I wonder what books are in there. And now I have these players that are like, what are in these books? And then we went to a library. Going to a library was suddenly terrifying because I was like, at least, in a sense, I guess, because at least with a library, you have to know what you're looking for. So that helped me narrow things down. But if it was just like exploring a place and it has a bookcase in it, oh, it's empty now. Nope. All the books are gone. Oh, well.
Ryan, just you wait till we go to the Temple of Agma in Waterdeep.
Oh, there's the Temple of Agma. There's Lore Master Atlavas, Atlavas that, you guys came and went from pretty quickly.
So before we get to
not to get duped by patrons, a warning to would-be warlocks. I need that book. Give me that book, Graham.
So Harriet, back to your fear about combat. I literally saw a TikTok, I think today, that was like DMs during combat, just add up the damage instead of subtracting it for like your baddies that your players are fighting against. I was like, oh my god,
That actually is very, very sensible.
Yeah, actually. Oh wait, what?
I think I remember seeing that like Taliesin does that with his hit points in combat.
Yeah,
Because
just add it
Marisha
up
used to like freak out thinking he was way lower than he was, but he would add it instead of subtract it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And then another thing too.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. Once you hit the total, you're
Okay.
And then another thing, talking about prices of stuff. I ran a Christmas one shot, which was like Home Alone, but with kobolds. Got it from DM Dave. Shout out to him. He does some amazing stuff on Patreon.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm an fresh DM. I didn't think about this, but like when you're playing and you're having to like have loot tables for different rooms.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I didn't think, as I'm building this scenario, why don't I go ahead and roll those loot tables? That way, when the character goes in there, it's like, what do I find? I can't just like say, okay, for this room is XYZ. It was, hold on, let me find out. Roll some dice, consult the table. I realized looking back, I was like, I could have saved like 45 minutes of just like, like table checking to figure out. So, yeah. Anyways, it's a shower thought I had months later.
Those are the best.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, it's your turn.
All right. So, two things. I'll kind of follow Harriet's lead. Multiple answers. First, my biggest fear with this campaign specifically is I hope we never switch from telling our story to my story. I never want my players to stop engaging with my world, ever. Yep. If it switches to me telling my story, then I'm just monologuing with a bunch of people.
You're in a room with a bunch of toy figurines, like playing.
Exactly,
for sure.
Exactly. Number two, and I actually got to experience this fear firsthand. I fear murder hobo parties. Like that style of play is not appealing to me. I care nothing about setting up encounters for you to knock down just for the sake of knocking them down. I fear, like, for instance, I've got this party that I play with and they're amazing. I've got another party that I DM for and they're terrible. Like and these guys can tell you I handcraft these I think decently thought out encounters with like mechanics and like in combat's not something we dive into lightly. It matters. And these guys, like, they're like, all they're doing is just swinging swords at problems and not engaging with the combat.
Yeah.
And they will literally tell me to that face, Ryan, that sucked. So, and then they complain about the loot. And like, I might have talked about this last time on here. Maybe I didn't, but I made these gloves of magnetism.
Yeah.
Where you can take chunks of metal, like unequipped metal, up to 5 pounds, and draw them to you with one gauntlet and launch them with another gauntlet.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing and horrifying.
Right?
I can
like
think of
the
100,000. Yes, the implications alone. I'm like, oh no.
Like,
that's so
money.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, like keys, all manner of things.
Thinking with portals.
There's a reason why Magneto is an Omega X-Men.
Yeah,
Omega mutant.
Like, yep. I gave him something that I handcrafted with love for his character because of what he told me about him. He's like, man, I wanted a sword. Like, I wanted an enchanted sword. To my face in front of everyone. So like,
Ryan, you know you can TPK this group.
Oh yes, I'm this close, but like
Look, Ryan, here's what needs to happen: TPK that group, and let's
With
just
those
roll another
gloves.
separate day campaign where we can just, play more.
D&D 2 days a week.
Yeah.
I don't think Heather would like that. She just said no. But
Nope.
but yeah, murder hobo loot goblin parties. I have nothing for them. I have no desire to appeal to that play style because it doesn't resonate with me, and I can't I can't create passion from nothing. So
CS Graham says,
Graham?
"Don't TPK the characters, TPK the players." TPK stands for total player kill.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. D&D's canceled.
Now, in fairness, there are some people that like really just like the mechanical part of D&D and not the storytelling.
Which
And that's
I'll
if that's
say-
the way you want to do it.
that's their
cool,
prerogative.
But
But those
definitely
people
you got to find the
terrify
right
me.
group and
Yeah.
the
Well,
right
I'll
DM.
be perfectly honest. Starting out with Linux, like I said, I want a cool sword that can just like, it's here, it's gone. I was looking at the mechanics, but very quickly, like, even in session 1, it already became I think I like the story more than I like the mechanics. Like I was, first session, we get into the typical, like, the ambush. With the cart, whatever. Like, I get to try out Eldritch Blast. Awesome, this is cool and everything. But then very, very quickly, the world and the story like became center stage versus, me playing Skyrim or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, I've gone literally weeks without having combat, but I'm not complaining because I love the story that much. Like, that's more intriguing than, rolling for initiative and rolling for attack and everything.
But you're also going to be excited when you get to throw Eldritch Blast.
Oh,
again.
I can't wait. I'm ready to crack them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like doing mechanical stuff is fun too. Like Justin, you were talking about building a like custom subclass.
Yeah.
I think that part of world creation can be really fun too. Like I love
Absolutely.
trying to build like balanced features for
Yeah.
things.
In fact, that's what I was
super
doing the
fun.
night they were working on the circus fight, and I couldn't be there because my patron like pimp slapped me to stay home.
You are grounded, mister.
That was our
Yes.
longest session we've ever had, and I'm just over here quietly like typing away at this paladin subclass.
Well, because we had that plot line because Dustin was supposed to be out for work for 2 weeks, but then he got COVID. So Ryan had already set this up, and so he sat there for 2 sessions like you'd see the group me, and Justin and Dustin would be like, having fun? All right, I'm gonna go back to the side thing now. But yeah, building subclasses, I was so thankful that Ryan is just so like game for whatever we come up with. Because when I knew that like Timora was something that Freya was looking at, I was like, okay, cleric, no, that doesn't really multi-class with monk, and it's not how she would, worship her, and paladin not really either.
Yeah.
And Greg has a lot more experience with D&D than I do, so he really I kind of told him what vibe I was going for, and he helped me plug in like mechanically, and then we got to send it to Ryan, and Ryan was just game for all of it, like introducing that and building it in.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love this little adventure that I have discovered. I guess because it has so much familiarity to me that I'm like, it's like watching a alternate reality version of something that I have done before, and I love that. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, and like I know I can see in y'all's campaign, and hopefully you get to see it in ours too, just like how invested you all are in it makes it that much more exciting to watch.
Because there's something to be said for watching something that people are very obviously enjoying doing, and you can see that passion in it. And I think that's part of the reason why I liked. I mean, it was that random, but then once we started watching after our first raid, I was like, these people are really invested in their story, and like they care, I guess. I mean, and I guess I've seen other streams like they care, but there's something that was missing that I was like, all right, well, we'll like raid somebody else next time. And then I was like, this one, there was that like chemistry there that was very obvious and apparent, and it was like all right, these people enjoy it in a similar fashion that we do. And I guess that was part of the thing, is that I saw that same passion from like the DM to the players and vice versa. Like, you can tell when they are there, when everybody is like present mentally and like taking part. And I was like, that was so good. So
And
good.
not just doing it
Ditto.
for like the Twitch views and stuff, because we've run into those types of parties too, I think, sometimes. So
we told each other at the very beginning when we first started streaming, me and Coulter or Justin, we were the most hesitant to do it, and we basically, and the whole party agrees, we basically said, hey, primarily, first and foremost, we do this on Tuesday nights to have fun, and if we want to stream having fun, great, but at the end of the day, this is 5 friends getting together for D&D.
right on. Yeah, we had that same conversation. And if people like watching it, and thankfully some do, and like I love that our friends come and hang out with us, because it enhances the experience for me.
Oh my god,
then that's even better. That's not like our goal, really.
We'll talk about Goat C next time.
Goat C. Poor Goat C.
Yes, thank you, Taco. Everyone present mentally can't be talking about me. Whatever, you pay enough attention, you do good. Goat C, yeah, I knew that was gonna get your attention. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us these last couple hours.
Thanks for letting us ramble with you again.
No, that's part of what the magic of Lore Dumplings is, just the rambling.
Bunch of nerds talking about D&D.
Exactly. I call it, we all have Google brain, where it's like you type in the one keyword and then you have like 5 separate like things that pop up afterwards. You're like, oh, I didn't know I wanted to know about this and this and this and this and this, or the YouTube vortex that you can quickly find yourself spiraling down. Like,
we are the living YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, one subject leads to this one, leads to this one, leads to this one.
Talk about varieties of potato.
Yes. Nerds. Whatever, Graham. You love it. You are one of them. Graham is actually one of the characters that we have. Well, Graham I met from another D&D stream, and then she started watching us here, and then I've watched some of his other streams because he's played in like Masquerade, the vampire one. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then he's another D&D stream as well, and now I got to play with him in the Barrels Baddies stuff. And so, yeah, whatever. You're as much a nerd as the rest of us. So, whatever. But anyway, we'll have another session soon. We'll do this again because I feel like we still have tons of similarities to talk about. And the more that me and Harry are going to be watching more of your previous exploits, I'm sure there'll be more things that I am going to be like freaking and geeking out about, because I'm like, oh my god. It was great. Well, guys, have a good night. Thank you for joining us. This is Dads and Dumplings.
Yes.
And we will see you next time.
Yep. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.